I think I would have wanted to be a movie star. I mean, Brad Pitt needs some competition. And it's easier than writing stories. Somebody gives you what you have to say, and everybody fusses over you. Make sure his hair is okay. Are you comfortable, Mr. Pitt? Is that chair good for you? Are you ready to go on? I'm getting so jealous of Brad Pitt. He better not show up here. About my birthday, about being this age, I can only hear about half of what people say, so forgive me, but would you just let me know what that was?
What impact do you think today modern comics is having on the movies that are being made?
Well, the modern comics, on today's Marvel movies, they're having every impact in the world. They're basing the movies on the comics, and what's happening is the other movie studios are seeing how successful the Marvel comics are, so they're trying to dream up things like this. So again, we've got competition, but we're at the forefront, and don't you forget it.
These have been the best 5 years of my life. I know we're young, but I don't care if we wait a year, 5 years, 10 years, as long as you say yes right here in front of Stan Lee. Yes?
If you're talking as a writer who wants to know what should I focus on, I think a writer should focus on what he or she wants to write. If you try to satisfy other people or you try to satisfy the market, you're not giving it your own genuine feeling. If you want to write about one character, write about one character. If you prefer to write about a few, write about a few. The important thing is that what you write be good and interesting and people will want to read it. Don't worry about what do they want or what should I do. Just do what you feel you can do best. How's that? 10 seconds and I wasn't even funny. Actually, I am an artist, but I didn't draw the comics. I was only the writer. I was the guy that nobody paid any attention to. Boy, isn't Kirby's artwork great? Boy, look the way Buscema drew that. Nobody ever said, boy, look at that great word that Stan Lee used. Somebody offered me a job, so I took it. If they had offered me a different job, I'd probably be a plumber now. I just took the first job that was offered, and that was it. I thought that both sides had a lot to say, and there's a lot of justification there. And basically, mainly, I wasn't reading the books at that time, so I heard about the Secret Wars from other people. And whose side should I say?
Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Spider-Man, Peter Parker. I thought he was up. Was he in it? Was he in it?
He was.
Okay, I was on Spider-Man's side. I'm sorry, I really didn't read the series as they came out because I was busy doing cameos, which, as you know, are far more important. Or haven't they hinted at it yet? I thought they had. It may become an important part of, I don't know if it'll be the next movie, but I'm sure it'll become an important part of one of the movies. It's got to be. It was by accident. I had a blind date. I had just gotten out of the Army, and a friend arranged a blind date for me with a model at a model agency, and that sounded pretty cool. No, in those days they didn't have the word cool. It sounded pretty groovy. That was a while ago. And I went up there, and I knocked on the door, and I have to preface this by telling you, when I was a kid, like most guys, I used to draw pretty girls. I used to draw my version of what the perfect girl would look like. And I rang the bell or something, and the door opened up, and this girl I had been drawing all my life was standing in front of me. And she wasn't the one I came to meet. She was the head model who opened the door. And she was English, and I love English people, and I love English accents, and I loved reading Shakespeare. And she said, "May I help you?" much nicer than I just said it. And I'm looking at this dream that I've always drawn. And she said, may I help you? And I think I mumbled something like, I love you. So anyway, I took her to lunch. I never met the model I was supposed to meet. I married Joni a few days later. I wasn't going to let her get away. Well, I didn't go through much. I just sat down and said, what's this character like? Like with Spider-Man, I said I want him to be a typical teenage kid, which means he'll have a lot of problems. The average typical teenage kid, every girl doesn't fall madly in love with him, and he never has enough money and stuff. These are fairy tale characters. They're ridiculous fantasy characters, but I tried to make them as believable as I could in their real lives. For example, you take Superman. And you don't have to take him, this is just an example. But I never knew where Superman even lived. I didn't know where Clark Kent lived. I didn't know what problems he had. All I knew was he worried if he took off his glasses, people would think he was Superman. So I tried to give our characters a little more of a personal life. What were they like? What did they want out of life? And so forth. And it made it a little easier to write the stories if you get to know the characters. And none of them ever took their glasses off and were mistaken for somebody else. You can see I'm a big Superman fan.